Friends, I'd like to share with you a special story, an unbelievable story, which I hope will enhance your Yom Tov of Pesach and inspire those who are quarantined in your home with you. And this is very relevant to our times where we need to bolster our trust in Hashem, and we need to have that there's a lot of healing that's needed amongst the Jewish people and throughout all of humanity. And may God eradicate this pandemic and bring healing to everyone who needs healing, and inspire all of us to have trust, because we know that the matzah that we eat on Pesach, the Zohar tells us, is called Ma'achla D'Mehemnusa. Then on the first night of Pesach, it's called bread of faith. And the second night, by the second Seder, when we eat the matzah, it's Mechla D'Asfasa, it's bread of healing. And these aren't just cute words, but they carry in them, when we eat the matzah, it carries in them these energies. And this story will demonstrate all of these elements to you. There was a Jew by the name of Yehuda ben Shushan. Yehuda ben Shushan was a French Jew who lived in northern Israel. He was married for over 10 years and did not have any children. Through the efforts of Rabbi Mullah Azimov of blessed memory, who was the Rebbe's leading shliach in France, in the country of France, his head shliach in the country of France, they obtained a blessing from the Rebbe for a child, and they were blessed with a daughter. So Yehuda ben Shushan was blessed with a daughter. When this girl was 10 years old, she started complaining about having severe headaches. So her parents took her to the doctor, and the doctors started doing tests. And after doing a number of tests, x-rays, they discovered that this girl, very sadly, had a tremendous growth, a monstrous growth in her head. It was so significant that they had no way of treating it in Israel. And they told the parents, you should fly with your daughter to Boston. And in Boston, they are more advanced. And if there's any place that they can help you, it's there that you can be helped. So they flew to Boston. And they visited the top doctors there. And the doctors took the tests. And after they saw the results, they said, you have one of two options. Option number one is that we operate and we try and cut out the growth. But we want to let you know that there's a high chance that your daughter will not survive the surgery. Option number two is we don't operate. And your daughter, we estimate, we will have about 6 months to live. Well, Yehuda was already in the United States. He was in Boston. He was already on the East Coast. So he said, how does a parent make a decision like this? So he arranged to have a private audience with the Rebbe, and he flew to New York, and he had a private audience with the Rebbe. He walked into the Rebbe's office, and you can imagine the amount of emotion and pressure he felt on himself, having to deal with this with his only daughter. Such a major decision, and his daughter's life is literally on the line, that when he walked into the Rebbe's room, he broke down in tears. Now, the month when he came to see the Rebbe happened to have been the month of Adar, the month when we celebrate Purim, the month when in the code of Jewish law it says, Mishenichnas Adar Marben B'Simcha, that when Adar enters, we increase in joy. And so when he walked into the Rebbe's room and he broke down crying, the Rebbe looked at him and the Rebbe said, Mishenichnas Adar Marben B'Simcha, and you bring depression into my room? Who gave you permission to bring depression into this room? That's what the Rebbe told him. Now, Yehuda ben Shushan was shocked. He was actually confused, disoriented maybe. He didn't know if the Rebbe was joking or not. Here he was coming to ask the Rebbe about his daughter, who's literally, her life was on the line. And the Rebbe's talking to him like this. So he said, Rebbe, but this is my daughter's life. So the Rebbe told him, and what makes you think that you're going to help your daughter by bringing depression into this room? So he said to the Rebbe, I wish I could be happy, but how can I be happy when my daughter's going through this? So the Rebbe said, the reason why Mishenichnas Adar Marbim B'Simcha, the reason why we increase joy in this month is because V'nahapechu. Because in the Megillah it says everything that V'nahapechu, it was turned over. What was turned over? There was a decree by Haman to kill the Jewish people, and Hashem flipped it over where the Jews were given the ability to kill their enemies. So, and then the Rebbe said, that's the reason why it's a joyous month. And then the Rebbe said, he made a motion with his hands, like he turned over his hands, and he said, turned over, let everything be turned over. So the father heard this, and then, and with that, his meeting ended, and he left the Rebbe's office. After he left the Rebbe's office, a few moments later, he realized that he forgot to ask the Rebbe his question. Should they do the surgery or should they not do the surgery? So he wrote a letter and he asked the secretary to give it to the Rebbe about what should he do about the surgery. So the Rebbe responded, I already answered when he was in my office. So Yehuda thought that most probably when the Rebbe said that everything should be turned over, he was talking about my daughter's illness as well. But he wanted to hear it clearly from the Rebbe. He didn't want to just trust that the Rebbe told him and that he understood it properly. So he responded to that letter and said, but I want to know from the Rebbe exactly what I should do. So the Rebbe said, if he's being stubborn about asking what to do, then tell him to go ask a third doctor. So he went back to Boston, they asked a third doctor. What did the third doctor say? He said what any competent doctor would say. He said, the only option is to operate. It's not a good option, but it's the only option. And so, in fact, they operated. They opened up their door. The surgeons opened up the daughter's skull, and lying before them was a modern-day medical miracle. There was absolutely nothing there. There was no growth, nothing whatsoever. They closed up her skull. They wheeled her out. They told the parents of the tremendous miracle that happened, which was not a surprise to the parents. However, there was a very heavy cost to the fact that he insisted that the Rebbe answer his question. Because by insisting that, they ended up going to a third doctor who told them to do the surgery, and the ramifications of that surgery were that their daughter, when she came back to herself, when she woke up, she had lost her speech and some of her memory. Devastating. Not as bad as what they had originally anticipated, but still not the way they wanted it to be. That Pesach, only a month later, they spent it in Flatbush, which is a section of Brooklyn, and walking distance to Crown Heights. And on the 8th day of Pesach, which we call Achrein Shel Pesach, or Shmini Shel Pesach, for the Sudas Mashiach, Yehuda walked into Crown Heights to be by the Rebbe's Farbrengen. And thousands of Hasidim were there, and the Rebbe spoke and they sang. And in between one of the speeches, while the Hasidim were singing, the Rebbe called over this Yehuda. And he gave him 2 pieces of matzah. And he said, this piece of matzah is for your daughter, Mechla da Asvasa, it's bread of healing. And this piece of matzah is for you, Mechla de Mehemnusa, bread of faith. There's no reason why your daughter should have to continue to suffer because of her father's lack of faith. And so this is for your daughter and this is for you. That's what the Rebbe said. And he took both pieces of matzah. After Yom Tov was over, as the Rebbe always did at the end of the major Yom Tovim, the Rebbe made Havdalah on wine, and then they would continuously add wine to the Rebbe's cup, and the Rebbe would pour a little bit of wine into the cups of thousands of Jews who would come to receive what is called Kais Shel Bracha, the cup of blessing from the Rebbe. When this Yehuda stood before the Rebbe to receive wine, the Rebbe told him another message. The Rebbe said, we know that the month of Nisan is the month of faith. We know that the month of Iyar, which follows Nisan, is the month of healing, because Iyar, Aleph Yud Yud Reish, stands for Ani Hashem Rofecha. I am Hashem, your healer. Usually, faith has to come before healing. But being that v'nahapechu, being that we're turning everything over, may the healing of your daughter come before her father's faith, even before her father develops faith. Yehuda went home to Flatbush. He brought the matzah to his daughter. He brought the wine to his daughter. She ate the matzah, she drank the wine. By the next day, her speech and her memory was entirely restored. Friends, I share this with you because as we have to realize the power of being a Jew, we have to realize the power of trust in Hashem. We have to realize that a Jew lives beyond the limits of nature. And in doing this, may we redeem ourselves from the confines and from the servitude and the limitations of nature as we celebrate this upcoming Pesach. And in that merit, may our faith and trust in Hashem be bolstered. May everyone who is suffering from illness be healed. And through our effort of redeeming ourselves from our limitations, our limited mindsets of thinking that we are victims of nature and realizing that we are connected to the infinite God, may Hashem bring to our entire people what we have all been waiting for. And that is redemption from our exile, just as He redeemed us in Nisan from Egypt. May He redeem us from this exile, and may we all be together for the Yom Tov of Pesach in Yerushalayim, Ir HaKodesh, the holy city of Jerusalem, together celebrating in the Beis HaMikdash. Have a wonderful Yom Tov.